What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to We'll Fix It team. We've got a wonderful group of guys with us. We got Dave in Cali, Johnathan Winnings, and of course me. But you know, I'm just somebody holding the camera thing.
Yeah.
I want to walk you around this place, so we'll just do a few shots of things. So I hope you enjoy and stick around for the whole video. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna flip the camera and let Johnathan start explaining some of the things going on that's right here in front of us. Okay. Go ahead, Johnathan. Here, you take the phone and
first off, excuse the mess, but what we got here is an 1895 Bates engine there. I spent about 25 years to get that one, and that was my first engine, and it's about, total weight on that one's probably about 30,000 pounds. Poured concrete, got it done. Got a bunch of other steam engines here, some of them dating back to 1870s. But I was just showing them this engine here, and which is a 4 horsepower Sears and Roebuck, sold. That's who sold it. This is a 1.5 horse Sears and Roebuck, and then we've got a 10 horse upright Sears and Roebuck over there. You can see, but the engines run. What I do is I run the exhaust through a pipe that runs around, and then through a set of coils inside of this tank that preheats the water. And once it preheats the water, I'm able to use a steam pump to pump that back into the boiler. So we're actually using exhaust. So when these engines run, these two engines, you don't even know that they're really running because they make no noise, and then there's no steam coming out because the steam heat goes in at 240 degrees and comes out at 80 degrees. So it takes all of the heat out of the steam and condenses it back into water. So anyway,
makes it real efficient, so you don't have to keep buying water and finding water. And at the time, it was, you know.
Oh yeah, because you wouldn't, if you had to haul water in from a pond, you didn't want to haul any more than you had to.
Yeah.
And then on this side, we've got an engine that was in the Henry Ford Museum up until about 1985. This was built in 1880s, and this would have run a DC generator. Probably, we think maybe that possibly Edison used this for testing, and there's a real good chance that that's what happened. There was a note on it, or a sign on it in the museum, and we haven't found out exactly what the sign said yet. We just know it said circa 1880, and gauges and stuff. And then we've got one out of a mansion that was in the basement that powered, I guess it powered the mansion, the power for the mansion. This is a 125 volt DC generator, 17.5 kW. And this had pinstriping all over it. It was a beautiful engine, and it had every bolt and nut on it was nickel plated. And it would have just been shining and beautiful at one time. But
you'd go down there and you would, he'd go down, if you're a rich dude, like an elite in your big mansion.
Their man fired it for him.
Yeah, but you know, you could go down there and, like, you know, do your opium, I guess is what they did back then. And like,
oh yeah,
and watch the generator run.
That's probably what they did.
Let's go down to the basement and watch this thing do something. Turn on
and
the
this
dryer.
Is a boiler that a friend Justin, you know Justin Stewart.
Yeah.
He got this out of a dry cleaners in Southern Pines, and
oh my goodness.
It had some issues with the tubes because they used city water. City water is not good because you get a lot of buildup. So
yeah, there's a lot of weird. If you boil off city water, there's a white residue left over, and that's the fluoride that makes you retarded.
Yeah, and that's what gums up the boilers and grows a bunch of stuff on the tubes. But here we've got this is our control panel. This is DC. You got a shunt, you got a rheostat, and
you should the armature on this and the configuration of the brushes is an artwork all to itself.
Yeah, it's a really nice setup because it's 8-pole, and the reason it's an 8-pole is because it only turns 350 RPMs, where like a big diesel generator would
You're
turn
combining the
1800.
voltages to each winding. Each one of them would be, if it's 125, you would say that'd be like you know, 25. 125 split 8, so 8 ways, and you'd put all those together. Now, you could oscillate DC back into AC through some, you know, through some new circuitry.
Yeah, the only thing that makes this DC is this commutator right here. Instead of being a solid commutator, it's got cuts in it, and this one actually lines up with the one directly on the other side.
Yeah.
So this works as a switch that reverses the polarity back and forth, and that's how you get DC. It runs constant. If it was AC, it wouldn't have this, and it would be, you know, constantly flashing back and forth. But pretty neat. I've got about, I think, 17 or 18 engines now. Got 3 or 4 of them from the south. Got one out here that's a well drilling engine that was actually made just for drilling wells. It's got forward reverse. And it never had a governor. It had what's called a driller's wheel on it, which would be a rope hooked to the valve to be able to operate it a little ways off. We've got a 1873 engine here on a boiler that's a Leffel Leffel was really famous for their water turbines. And then we got the Erie steam shovel engine, come out of a steam shovel.
Oh, wow.
And we've got the Soleil engine, and this is kind of a really neat engine because out of the millions of steam engines that was built in the world, this is within the last 100 of every steam engine ever made. This was the last known company to be in existence. It was they didn't stop production until 1981, and this is within the last 100 serial number. So out of millions of engines built, this one was, there's probably about 90 of them after this one, but that was it. No more in the United States.
What kind of bearings are they using in this?
Most all these are Babbitt bearings, which is a poured bearing, and they're really easy to adjust, and you can re-pour them, and you know, they're just, it's back when people done their own work, you know, and they didn't build anything to replace, they built everything to last forever. You know, their mindset was, let's just, you know, we're building it better than the other guy.
Yeah.
Now we're building it cheaper than the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's changed. So. But yeah, have a good time messing with these things. And
so they're a total loss system.
Well, yeah, the steam leaves it, but you can take that heat and do other things with it. And you can also take it and by the time when the steam leaves the boiler, all it wants to do is turn back into water. So every cold thing it hits, it's going to turn back into water, condense. And that's what you're fighting against. Now, I don't fight it too much because as you can see on my pipes, none of them are insulated or anything like that. So I really don't worry too much about it. I'm not trying to run efficient. If I was trying to run efficient, everything would be insulated and covered, and you know, I don't mind it so much. I just, you know, play with the water.
What do you think your recovery is? 85%?
Well, if you like them engines out front there, I mean, I'm recovering. Well, like I said, it goes in at 240 and comes back out at 80, so I'm recovering all of that and most all of the water. So I mean, you'd be surprised at how much. I mean, it's getting a lot of heat out of it. Now the boiler, you know, I found out that I ran some vertical boilers, and then I started running horizontal boilers, and then I realized how big of a joke a vertical boiler is because the heat just comes out the top.
Yeah.
And then I done a cutaway
here.
here.
Wood heaters the same way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, wood heaters. I noticed that I built one up vertical, and it put out a lot of heat, but it just went out the top.
Yeah, a lot of it goes out the top. This is called a triple fast boiler here. This is a real efficient boiler. This boiler, believe it or not, and you can see by the size of the 6-inch pipe coming out of it, this thing actually heated an entire apartment complex. And what it done was your ash box is down where the black's at, your fire is where the red is, and it travels up, and you got water legs that come down, that's blue, and then it comes through these pipes, and then it comes back up through these pipes and comes out. So it's triple pass, which is kind of odd. You know, this big one here is only a double pass, but this is a triple pass, and it would have really put out the heat. It's really amazing. Now the white at the top would be where the steam's at, the blue's where the water was at. Wow. So that's just painted up, and I torched it in half.
So heat would travel through these tubes right here to come make contact with the water.
Exactly.
And instead of just trying to if you set a pot of boiling water over one single burner, you're only heating that bottom
just the bottom,
and allowing convection to get the rest. If you could put burners in that water, it's going to boil a whole lot better. And that's what you're having here when yeah, wow.
And the way that
it increases the surface.
And so
exactly, surface area is what you're looking for.
If somebody's watching like a steam tractor or any kind of steam engine under a load, and when they start pulling that load, what makes the fire start drawing more?
Okay, we got, and I built one on this. We got a steam injector, and all I've got on this one's a piece of pipe that's sticking into the exhaust pipe, and what it does is as it pushes steam out, it increases the drive. Pretty simple.
That's what I was wondering as well, because I was watching pull real hard on some of the steam tractors at the Kenator show,
and you see the smoke start getting thicker.
Big, I noticed like if I get a fire going a lot, like if I'm building a fire in one of my wood heaters, and you get a good flame going, you create one heck of a through system. You start, the heat, and plus if you have a long runner of your chimney, that hot air starts to rise really fast, creating a suction effect, a scavenging effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's
velocity tubes on an engine.
Or better yet, like when you have a really big racing cam and you have overlapping your valves.
Yeah, that's what exhaust
is. Down and out. It's actually pulling, or like a power valve.
Scavenging.
The power valves in a 2-stroke motor, when you have a lot of flow of exhaust,
that actually helps suck.
Yeah, it pulls exactly. It's pulling. It's causing a scavenging effect that you get after a certain RPMs, and so so that's kind of fun.
Well, the way the boilers work is if The orange section, if you was to measure all that, and then you take the inside section, which these are about 2 inch, and then you'd go 3.14, which is pi, and you do the math, and what you come up with would be a certain square footage. This big boiler is 247 square foot, so that it's a 24.7 horsepower. So it's 10 square foot, 1 horsepower.
I got you.
So of heating surface.
Yeah,
and
to keep it constantly under a pull.
Well, see, and our problem with this boiler compared to this boiler, these has got water legs. So your fire is beside a wall that's got water in it. That boiler does not.
I could see that.
Exactly. There's water going in there, and these are tie bolts to hold it together to keep it from exploding apart. And usually they're hollow, so if they rust up, they'll start leaking out of them. But these are a little different, a little newer than what the old ones were.
Yeah, to keep the side from.
Yeah. So this boiler here, because it was actually originally a natural gas boiler, and I made it into a wood boiler, I've got fire brick instead of having the water leg. The water leg, it would be way more efficient and do a lot better. But our big Kewanee boiler that we're hooking up, it's all made for it, so it's got water.
It's got something similar to this here, yeah.
Well, plus too, you're building up the steam, and so that adds pressure to the water jacket and everything. So it kind of makes sense.
Well,
oh yeah.
Now
that surface area,
under a pressure, water takes hotter temperatures.
Yeah, higher.
Right.
Yes,
right.
because
you can get it hot.
And you can do the math and figure exactly what it is.
Yeah,
but I mean,
you know, because I noticed that, like, say for instance, if you leave let's just use a Chevrolet that has a high operating temperature, which makes the motor really efficient and run clean and stay clean because the oil doesn't build up deposits. So anybody that thinks that running a motor out of thermostat is going to give you more power or longer engine life, you need
gum it up.
Yeah, you need more. You're really your rings will last longer.
Yeah.
You know. So anyways, but what I'm getting at is if you leave the radiator cap off and you crank one of those Chevrolets up, and the thermostat opens up, you can actually watch it start to try to just boil a little bit because it's not relying on the pressure built up as the water to kind of stabilize the part where it starts to boil at.
Right.
And so if you pressurize the water, then that actually kind of gives it a higher, you can get more temperature out of it with less boil over. So that's something to think about, you know, in essence. Or a vacuum. That's one of your goals.
You make it boil without even being hot.
Right, you know, like if you're working on an air conditioner system on a vehicle and you want to get the moisture out of it, you put a vacuum on it to get air out that has a different expansion rate other than Freon. But you're also getting moisture out because you're having a low level boil off because of you have it under such a heavy vacuum. So there's a lot of things that are happening.
Yeah, and you got to count in the expansion and contraction too when water gets hot and when it gets cold.
Right.
With the boilers, you don't want it too high when you fire it because when it gets hot, the water's going to expand so much you're liable to cause what's called priming. That's when your water gets into your engine. You don't want that.
Right, that right there causes all kind of issues.
Exactly, and then so I used to.
It can't be compressed.
Exactly, I used to fill the boiler up with the pump and then shut it down and let it cool off, and then it would contract the water. But I learned a long time ago it's a lot easier if you leave your valves open on your injector, and you shut it down, and just as it cools, it'll create a vacuum and it'll suck the water in itself, and then you come back and it's back up where you want it at. So if you get good at running your same boiler every time, you know, which a fireman back in the old days would have been.
Yeah.
Except for the one that ties the pressure relief valve shut and blows itself up. But
that happens.
Yeah, it happened a lot back then. But it was always, you know, operator error, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, pretty neat.
That sums up our.
You want some tires, right?
Yeah. Let me flip the camera. We'll sign off to everybody. So that sums up our steam lesson for the day. We thank you so much for tuning in to We'll Fix It team. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm out. Thank you.